I never get my fingers on the screen. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special weekday edition of the Fat Guys No More podcast. Today, I'm here with Joe and an old friend, Becky Conzelman, who is, are you in Colorado?
I am, Denver, Colorado.
This is our first out-of-state guest, I think, and it's our first woman guest. So you're getting a whole bunch of...
That's not true.
Who is it? Oh, no, yeah, that's not Heather.
Jamie and Heather.
She's not the first of either one of those because they were both from out of state.
Scott has no idea which guests we have on here.
Let's redo this in 3, 2, 1, go.
No, there are no redos, especially when Joe's daughter's bottom hurts or butt hurt.
I'm a little worried. My daughter is downstairs. She was supposed to spend the night with grandma last night, but she called me at like 11 o'clock and could not sleep and wanted me to come get her.
Okay.
So fortunately, we don't have a morning class on Wednesday, so I got to go get her and then sleep in today.
Well, there you go. So anyway, what I wanted to frame this up and explain to people why we have this interesting trio of people. As we've covered on the podcast in the past, I'm a cyclist. I'm very involved in cycling. I'm a cycling official, and I've been around bicycle racing and track racing specifically for the better part of 20 years now. Bicycle racing for about 40 years and track racing about 20. Well, a number of years ago, and I can't remember the exact date, Becky showed up in Colorado Springs, and she was at the time living somewhere near Pennsylvania, and she was a track racer, and she was good friends with mine, Jamie Carney. And Becky, did you know that Jamie got engaged the other day? And
I did in typical Jamie fashion on April Fool's Day, right?
On April Fool's Day.
Yeah, right.
The only reason I believe it's true is there was a diamond involved. If there wasn't a diamond involved, it would not. I would not.
Jamie, if you're listening, we're proud of you, buddy. Proud of you for taking the big step.
I will actually see him most likely. I will see his fiance on Saturday. I'm not sure if he'll be there.
Oh, okay, cool. Where are you going to see her?
Sunny King Criterium, which is supposed to be a high of 52 all day and raining, which should be
disgusting.
a great criteria. So anyway, I got to know Becky, and we were friends for a while, and then she, not living in Colorado, faded off into her life, and I faded off into mine. And scroll forward to 2017, and I have a very good friend in Joe doing CrossFit, and so I try to find all the people I know doing CrossFit, and somehow or another find Becky and see pictures of her looking unbelievably ripped and go, whoa, she's gone from being the ripped cyclist to what in the world? And I thought she would be a good... I
think when you first mentioned Becky, I'll interrupt here. I think you first mentioned, hey, I know this. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, Becky Conzelman. She does CrossFit, and as you know, anybody that knows somebody that does CrossFit, we have to look and see how anybody does in the open. And I was like, oh yeah, she does CrossFit. That's fine. That's cool. She's pretty fit, I'm sure. And then went and looked at your open scores. And was like, oh, she's not just pretty fit. She's one of the top females in the world in her age group. This is ridiculous. Okay, never mind. You know a legit elite level athlete. So it was interesting to see that for sure.
Thanks, guys.
So one thing led to another, and we ended up with a podcast. And as we look for people to talk to, so people don't get too bored of just listening to us go through ADHD theater, I said we should get Becky to come on, and here we are. So that's the base story, and I guess we start with so you used to be a bike racer. How did you get out of that world and into CrossFit?
Yeah, I as you know, raced from on the track 2002 to 2005, and then I was done. Like, I knew when I was done, I was done. 2005 World Championships. I said I'm 35 at the time or so.
Math is always challenging online.
When you're 47 almost, Scott.
Hey, I got you beat. I got a 0 on last 6 days ago. I got my 0, and it's a 5 in the first digit. So.
Well, I'm proud to grow older with you. So.
Well, there you go. Hey, it's better than the other option.
Hey, as I like to refer to it, it's not getting older. You're leveling up.
There we go. Leveling up. All right. So, yeah, 2005, kind of retired from cycling, knew I wanted to start a family. And within 2 years, I had a couple kids, Kylie and Tyler. They're 15 months apart. We moved down to New Orleans.
Being a sprinter, you had to do
it quickly,
people
right? Are like, why did you do that? I said, because I'm a sprinter. That's exactly why. We're all instinct. And then we moved to New Orleans from Allentown, Pennsylvania, Trexlertown, Pennsylvania. And my husband was on the joint staff for the Navy Reserve down there. So I was definitely in the Cajun fog, so to speak, with these two young babies, raising kids, and did yoga for like a couple years. Like, didn't get super into it, but it was just something different that some of my girlfriends on base were doing. And then we moved to Alexandria, Virginia, where Jim was working at the Pentagon. And I went into a Gold's Gym, and I was just like, all right, I've got to get back in shape after having these two children. And so the trainer took me through a kettlebell workout, and I'm like, hey, can you give me a goal? Like, can you create a little workout and give me a goal? And she just kind of looked at me like, okay. And so I did. And of course, I'm like doing kettlebells for time, basically. And she was like, hey, have you ever heard of CrossFit? Because I think you would actually really like it. And I said, no. And there was a girl at the front desk that did CrossFit. And it just so happened a couple miles down the road was Rudy Nielsen, who owned Outlaw CrossFit. He was kind of a big coach at the time, and one of the leading coaches early on in the CrossFit days. And so I went to this gym and started doing these workouts. And after about 2 to 3 weeks, he said, so what do you think? And I'm like, oh, it's awesome. Like, I'm loving it. This is great. And it's a great way to get back in shape. He goes, you're going to compete, right? And I'm like, oh gosh, no. Like, my competing days ended in 2005 when I was 35 years old. And now I need to like focus on this family. And he goes, well, I just want you to know that you have a gift and you should use it. And so I was just started working out, typical couple hours a day. And then we had, back then it was, Joe, you can help me with this, but it was sectionals.
Yeah.
And then did that lead into the regionals, which led to the games, I think? Yeah, the sectionals was kind of our local open, basically. And then regionals was a much smaller
that was before
scale.
We had, Scott knows a little bit about the open, mainly because my brother works out at our gym and works with Scott and I. And every year, March, he gets to hear, 17.5 is this, and 16 point is this is. And
every year we have to take a coffee break at the right time so I can watch them get the news of what they have to do on the first WOD and everything. So, and then I get to hear about them complaining about it, but I complain about stuff too, so I'm not really complaining about them complaining.
And we talk about.
But so back in the day, we did not have the open. We back in the day, it was just like you said, it was a local competition that allowed you to set up to go to the next level.
Yep, and that was 8 years ago for me. Actually, a Facebook picture popped up yesterday, and it's just so hard to believe, mainly looking at the growth of my children. And so that year I made it to what was then considered our regionals, and people like Christy Phillips Atkins, I was competing with and chasing her up the hill with a sandbag, and Julie Fouché was in our region then, and Gretchen Kittelberger. And I'm pretty sure I learned a muscle up at that event. And they had programmed 54 chest to bars in the final workout. And I just did not have one more in my tank. And I was in second place this was 2010, going into the final workout. And I watched girls like drop down, run up the hill, pull the sled. And I'm like, okay, I've got a cushion. There's still one more place. I've got it. And then Kate Rawlings dropped, and then she ran up, and I missed it by about 20 seconds. So that was 2010. And Joe, if you remember, that's the year they programmed Amanda at the CrossFit Games.
To start the games. Which
is just as well, because I don't even know how many muscle ups I had back then. So that's kind of how my journey began. And then I really was like, I kind of caught the bug, was drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm like, you know what, 2011, I'm going to train for this. And went on to train all year and win regionals, and I think I won like 4 out of the 6 regional events that year and was just on fire, and then completely overtrained for the game. So that's kind of how I got into it, and it's been amazing.
What's really funny though is as you're telling that story, I can relate back to watching you and announcing as you racing on the track. You were like a little pit bull. If somebody was just a little bit in front of you, you were just good. I mean, she was a scrapper on the track, so it was always I could just see her.
Those are the ones on the CrossFit athlete. Those are the CrossFit athletes you have to watch out for. You just kind of the name she's mentioning there, especially somebody like Gretchen Kettleberger, who she mentions.
Mm-hmm.
You look at them and they look like a little pit bull that you don't want to mess with them.
But we do.
She's probably 5'2" and just a ball of energy.
Yeah.
Well, but the
she
thing
was one of my level 1 trainers
and one of my good friends. I love Gretchen.
And the thing with Becky though is she'd rip your arms off and beat you to the line on the track, and then come off and be your best friend. It was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, So
that's right. I call it warrior mode, Scott.
There you go. Exactly. And I've seen your warrior.
I think Scott's actually getting a bit of this from my 5 a.m. class that I coach a 5 a.m. class at the gym, and he's talked to a couple of my athletes who the niceness of everybody inside the class. They're like, oh no, you got to come to our class. You got to come to this, and they're trying to encourage him to drive an hour to wake up, to come to a 4:30 or 5 a.m. class.
Yeah, because that's always good to wake up and try and ride a motorcycle in the dark over there. So,
Scott, you know what's the beauty of CrossFit is I kept so much more skin on my body by CrossFitting than I ever did with cycling.
Well, I'm at a point now.
Do you remember how much I used to crash? It was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it did, but skin heals. But that being said, I'm at a point in my life where I do what I want to on a bike, and I have a motorcycle that I climb hills with. It works a lot better. So, but if I get a notion to go race on any given Tuesday or Wednesday, I go do it. But I'm not really training for anything. I'm having a lot more fun. I do the YSC Tour de Pinks, which quick update on that. I will be 1 week from today. I will be on my way to 1 week from tomorrow. I'll be on my way to Florida for YSC Tour de Pink South, helping young women affected with breast cancer. So,
that's great. Well done.
I did 3 of them last year. I'm doing 2 of them this year. This will be next week is my 7th. So, but
you kind of scared me there for a second, Scott, saying it was next week, because that made me realize how close we are to. A few of the guys at our box, Becky, are doing the Ragnar trail runs in the CrossFit division.
Cool.
And I'm not. I don't remember the last time I've run. I'll tell you. Actually, the last time I ran 5 or 15 miles on a single day was about 6 years ago. So I'm not looking forward to doing it. Let's camp all weekend and go run 15 miles.
But hey, this is like the world. That's the world's biggest running Madison. I mean, you get to throw a whole bunch of partners in the middle and take a break.
That's right.
So how much time have you put into this, Joe? We might need to talk about how we're going to get you through this. Into training for the Ragnar.
I run quite a bit.
Okay.
It's actually, I say, as far as CrossFit, I'm at the gym 5 or 6 days a week, 6 days a week, and then but my non-busy time is just I'm not necessarily a runner. But it's a good chance for me to get out and clear my head, and always feel better afterwards. So I don't have a problem running 5 miles or running 10 miles. I can go out and do that. It shouldn't be a big issue.
Very cool.
Running 15 does scare me though.
As I sit back and think about what we've talked about so far, we've got 2 guys. We've got Becky trying to convince me I need to CrossFit, and she's starting to coach Joe online right now.
Just turn the tables a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
that's right.
What would you like to talk about next, Becky? Feel free.
Well, actually,
I'm just going to sit my team
I do have
right
a
here.
question. So I do have a question for you, because I did do a little bit of stalking to see how you did in the Open this year, and did you not compete in the Open this year?
I exercised my freedom to not do the Open, and it was wonderful. Thursday nights, there was no anticipation. There was no anxiousness on Mondays that I might forget to submit my score. I think I did 3 of the 5 workouts this year.
I was something similar last year. I had decided I'd gotten my diet really under control. Obviously, Scott and I have lost a bunch of weight, and I had started getting pretty decent at the competition side of CrossFit, but I had a wrist injury, which really threw everything back, and then I slipped into a weird depression and gained a little bit of weight back, and then my fitness wasn't the same. But so this year, going into it, so I wouldn't stress as much as I had in previous years, I decided I was doing one workout. I'll do it Thursday night or Friday morning, and then I was done with it. And the pressure that took, really, like you talking about, take the pressure off of you. I'd get done, and people at the gym would ask me, "Are you going to redo the workout? Are you going to do it again?" And I'm like, "No, I think I'm good. I know I gave it my all, and could I probably do a little bit better if I game plan differently? Yeah, but knowing I don't have to redo another workout. I do have to do another workout until Dave Castro mentions another one next Thursday. I'm so much happier with this. So we'll see how next year changes, but it was a huge eye-opening experience to me to actually enjoy it without having to stress about it. And yeah, I'm not even awesome at the same level you were, where I'm in the new Masters division, that 35 to 39 age group. And like I said, it was a weird year for me, but even then, oddly enough, I'm a little bit fitter this year than I was last year. I'm just not as far up as I thought I would be. So it was definitely cool to not stress about it. And I see, I like when athletes like yourself, who is an elite level athlete, it's like, you know what, I need to take a year off and not have to stress. And you can spend some time Thursday night and Friday nights actually enjoying being at the gym.
Yeah, right. But, we do have an amazing community, and it is so fun to see everyone rally behind this incredible event. So that's the beauty of CrossFit and the fun of it.
And the cool thing is and Scott can sort of relate to this. We had a guy on our podcast from earlier, Tim Huff, got his first chest to bar pull up this year in the Open. So
that's so neat.
When people are doing that and they get their first toes to bar, their first chest to bar pull up, and he had never attempted to do a chest to bar pull up, and because he's a bigger athlete, and it was something he was like, yeah, I don't really think I can do it. And we spent a few minutes before the workout and was like, let's give it a shot and see what happens. And I think he ended up doing like 21 or 22 pull-ups, chest to bar pull-ups in the workout, and just could not believe. I mean, he was beside himself of how excited he was to know, hey, I don't think I can do one of these things. And then turn around and, oh, wait, apparently you can do them, and you've been sandbagging. But, yeah, so hear the gym cheer for him when he did his first one. The workout was 3 thrusters and 3 chest to bar pull-ups, and 6 thrusters, 6 chest to bar pull-ups. But he jumped up there and didn't miss one, just jumped up there and, boom, his chest hit the bar. And the gym just awesome. Kind of erupted. And that to me, that's what I tell any new athletes we have. It's cool to see the 21-year-old kid come in and do a workout, and he can do whatever he wants because he's 21 and has boundless energy. But when you get a 45-year-old man who's never thought he would be able to do a pull-up, hit his first chest to bar, is that's really more what the Open is.
Yeah.
Then watching the daughters or Matt Fraser go out there and just destroy workouts.
Right. Send us some of that Icelandic water. We need it.
Right. No kidding. No kidding.
I'll be honest. One of my biggest fears about CrossFit is that Joe's mom's going to kick my butt. My
mom works out with us. She's 61 years old. She's an animal. So she's it's a lot of fun. And that I've told that before. I think she said it made her feel pretty good. There's been times where our 6 a.m. class, 5 a.m. is usually busy, but there's been times where 6 a.m. is just me and my mom in there, and working out, doing wall balls and running and all these workout things with my mom. I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like she may not be doing the 20 or 14 pound wall ball. She's got a little 6 pound wall ball she does, but we're going neck and neck right next to each other, and that's always kind of cool. So I did have another question.
Yeah.
That's funny, Scott. Everybody said my wife just posted that on there. Joe's mom will kick your butt. So with Easter just this past weekend, that we did Passion Wad for you guys. Is that something you guys created with FaithRx, or is that how did that come about?
We did. A few of us came up with that workout last year, and it was modified from a previous year, and man, it was awesome. I went to Orange County and did it with the FaithRx Orange County chapter. And I don't know if you know Lindsay Valenzuela, but she's a friend of mine. I competed with her in the grid league and against her at the games in 2011 and 12. And there were like 50 or 60 people. And Scott, I don't know if you know what the workout is, but it's basically 100 double unders, and which is the rope passes twice underneath your feet when you're jumping rope.
I've learned basic. And
okay.
that one I did know.
Okay. And then, yes.
Hey, Scott, I'm going to have to drop off for just a second. I'm going to jump back on in a second. My boss is calling me.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, thanks.
Whoa. And then an 800-meter barbell rack carry, which gets super spicy. And then at the end, 100 burpees. And so the double under signify the lashings of Christ. The 800-meter barbell carry obviously signify Christ carrying the cross. And then ending with burpees, so like the death and resurrection of Christ. And I'll tell you what, this was probably the most meaningful Easter to me. And I'd done the Passion Wad before, but I was in a group or in a book group with some girls, and we did Henry Nouwen's book called Show Me the Way, and it was a devotion book for Lent. And Scott, I don't know what your background is, with faith, but
I had a beautiful segue into that. And so when you're done with this, I'm going to segue back to the beginning. So go ahead.
Okay. So for 40 days, I was reading, just a morning devotional on Lent, and really had you focus on Christ, the person of Christ, what he did, how a relationship with Christ should compel us with more compassion, more love for others. It should change our actions. And then I went to do this Passion Wad with this group of people, and they had worship music playing throughout the workout. And I was moved, I'm not going to lie. I was moved. And just all over the world, people were doing this. Even in Australia, in the UK, they were performing the Passion Wad. And it was just neat to see this workout organically take off and ultimately help people focus on the faith that we want to strengthen people with. And that's the mission of FaithRxd.
Well, so now let me segue back to the beginning of this conversation, because first of all, having been around Joe and his brother Chad and everything, I know the WOD, for those of you who don't know, is the workout of the day. And there's many sources of them, and in this case it was the Passion WOD and on Easter and such. But one of the things that when you met me, I believed in God, but I had no idea in the world what that was. It's just something you knew about. I'm also, okay, Joe's ready. He's waving. There we go. I'm adding him back.
All right, cool. Joe, you got to get on the good part. Come on.
Okay, so when you met me back in the day, I believed in God, but my God was based on going to Alcoholics Anonymous and getting sober, where you come to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity. And I'm not really sure about the sanity thing, but that's a whole nother conversation. But so anyway, since then, I've come to believe in Jesus. I've been saved, and my life has taken a lot of changes. I've been to Celebrate Recovery, and I've done a lot of cool things. So as we looked at all this stuff, I remember back when I don't remember where. Maybe it went. I don't think Facebook was around. I don't know, but I knew that you were a Christian, and here you are hanging out with me and Jamie Carney, a bunch of heathens and stuff. But you were always just wonderful about it, and it was awesome. So then I see this CrossFit, and I see FaithRxd. And I actually do know that RX is like prescribed. So I learned that when we talked to Joe's friend, Tim. And apparently you're the executive director, based on stalking. For those of us who don't know what the WOD and FaithRxd is, what is it? Tell us about that, because it seems really interesting to me.
So when you say what the WOD and FaithRxd is, do you mean like what RX means in the name FaithRxd?
Well,
or
I know what RX. What is FaithRxd? I mean, it's an entire, I believe, organization you and your husband, I think, created. So tell us about that, because that's a whole chapter that Joe just sort of injected in. But to those of us who don't know you and or CrossFit and or FaithRxd, there could be a lot of confusion right now, and I'd like to hear more details about it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for asking. And as I was saying, I competed at the CrossFit Games in 2011 and 12 as an individual female. And then 2013, I competed in the Masters division. And as FaithRx was starting to grow and my commitment in time for training became less and less, then I moved to team and competed with the team at the games in 2014 and 15. And then it was definitely time. Not only was my body getting tired from the wear and tear of what CrossFit does to your body, but also it was time to devote more energy to FaithRxd. So early in those years, especially I remember this poignant moment where I was looking around the stadium at the CrossFit Games, and we were in the final few workouts of the games. And I was encouraged by the testimony of my brothers in CrossFit, like Rich Fronig, who's won the CrossFit Games, and Chris Spieler, who's a great family friend from actually, Scott, he came to the Lehigh Valley Velodrome. Chris Spieler is one of the icons. He actually owns Icon Athlete, but he is one of the leading guys in kind of the David and Goliath story of CrossFit, right? He's just this 5'5". What does he weigh, do you think? I don't even know.
I'd guess he's about one. I think he, at least when he first started, I think he was about 155. Yeah. I think he's gained a little bit of weight, muscle mass since then. I think he pushes around 160 or 165 now. Still tiny by any weightlifting standard.
So there were these leading guys that, weren't shy about their faith and were in our sport and winning the CrossFit Games. And obviously CrossFit, just like any elite athlete sport, people look to the elite athletes, almost idolize them at times. And I looked at the stadium and I couldn't help but feel this tremendous compassion and love for this community. Honestly, Scott, more than I love cycling, but God just burdened my heart for this community that involves over 1.5 million people across the world and 15,000 different CrossFit gyms. And I thought, as they look at us compete on Center Stadium at the Home Depot Center, which is where we also raced in the 2005 World Championships, right?
Yep.
I thought, man, do they know, when they look at Rich or whoever it is, do they know the extent to which their faith propels these guys and propels me? And if they don't know it, I want them to know it. And so I started to talk to people about, and I had worked for Fellowship of Christian Athletes when I was in the Lehigh Valley. I was an area director there. I don't know if you knew that or not, but at the same time I was cycling, I was doing ministry. That's
probably how I knew the FCA connection. And,
That's
and
right.
I remember seeing that in something, some website at the time. And so that's how I knew that you were on the God Squad, as I would have called it in the day.
Yeah, that's right. The God Squad. I am.
Yeah.
And so I started to talk to people like Chris, and I said, Chris, what would you think if we developed an athlete New Testament? And just like in FCA, they had their sports New Testament with elite athlete stories in it that is meant to be a tool for people to read and say, wow, this story about Tanya Wagner, this story about Dan Bailey, this is real in their life, and this is how they apply it. And my hope was that it would bring the gospel to life. And so on New Year's Day of 2013, the Lord just ripped me out of bed, 5 a.m. And as you know, being a cyclist, sleep is our idol, right? Yep. And I felt as if to the elite athletes that you know, and encourage them that we've been given a platform and let's use it for my glory. This is God, speaking to my heart. He's like, you're never going to sleep again. And I'm like, okay. I'm writing this. And so I sat down at the computer and had been compiling a list of emails of coaches and athletes that I knew that profess faith, and got the Athlete New Testament project rolling, which is essentially a New Testament with 17 athlete stories within it. And over the course of the next 6 months, raised about $20,000 to buy these Bibles, worked with a publisher out of Colorado Springs, and put this together. And it was during that time that I met a guy named Chip Pugh, who was Rich's coach and actually got Rich into CrossFit, baptized Rich. And he had started CrossFit Faith, which was basically an online faith workout for people. It was like a daily reading. And one of the key words for FaithRxd is unity. And if we could all come together with a common purpose, that we would change the world for Christ, right? We would love people better. We would serve them better. And so I reached out to Chip and said, hey, Chip, what would you think if we got together and expanded upon what you started to include chapters all over the world to have training camps that we not only coach people with high-level CrossFit training, but also encourage them to start chapters in their local community, give them resources to strengthen them in their faith. And he came back to me about a week later and said, Becky, we are in. And he said, a woman came up to me a few weeks ago and said, the ministry that you helped start will someday change the world for Christ. And whenever I tell this at camps, I usually get pretty emotional as I'm looking at like the 50 or 60 people in attendance. But that's when I really knew that God meant to use this for his glory. And it's his ministry. And so we met at the Central East Regionals. And that's where myself and Chip Pugh, my husband Jim, and my former pastor Jeff Schlenz, who's out of Alexandria, Virginia, and all of our spouses got together for a time of prayer. And what does this look like? And that's where we formed the mission of FaithRxd. So we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary, which is really exciting. We've got almost 80 chapters in 8 different countries, and putting out 500 pieces of content each year that hopefully encourages people in their faith.
And based on everything you've done, I think you've only slept about 80 hours in those 5 years.
I think I definitely have aged. But hey, I have extra time because I'm not training as much. So, and that's not doing the open, Joe.
And so I believe I'm not 100% sure, but your husband, I know he's involved based on what you just said, but is he a CrossFit maniac as well?
I wouldn't say he's a maniac, but he certainly drinks.
Uh-oh. Did we just lose Becky?
Was doing the.
Oh, she's coming back.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
All right, cool. Yeah, he doesn't compete, but he definitely participates in CrossFit and enjoys it.
Well, and Joe will back me on everything that's about to come out of my mouth.
No,
I don't not compete at anything. If you told me today I am going to drink a gallon of water, I will drink a gallon and 8 ounces just to beat you. If you told me because I drank a gallon of water, you went to the bathroom 12 times, I would go try to go 13. There's nothing I can't compete at. So that's actually, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But to think of that I would suddenly start I mean, Joe can tell you how many times I've sent him my Strava things that I haven't beaten myself up a hill in 2 years, and I think I'm going to die because I'm getting old and I'm slow. And then finally I do. But it's like, so I'm not sure I'm ready for to put myself in a target-rich environment like that.
A lot of times I'm Scott's sanity when he's like, I don't understand why I'm not doing so well. And I'm like, well, you slept like 3.5 hours last night, Scott. You should probably, your diet may not be perfect right now. Hey, it's Wednesday, and for some reason, Wednesdays don't work for you. I have to talk him off the ledge sometimes because he's like, whatever I'm doing is not working. But I think, as I say, I've always told him he would do great in CrossFit just for that reason alone.
Scott, seriously, come on, stop fooling yourself. Literally, we are wired the exact same, and I'm just going to talk to you in a year, and your traps are going to be like bulging out next time I talk to you, I'm sure. But it will affect your cycle. There's really no good correlation between endurance cycling and CrossFit, but it is good to do both.
And that's the thing. I to this day, and I started riding seriously, and I haven't done it every year since when I was 10 years old. I mean, a little bit of trivia from a mutual friend. Jamie Carney won my first ever USCF race, and his dad got mad at Jonas.
Joe, did you just lose him?
Nope, I'm still here. I can hear both.
I know, but I don't see Scott.
I'm here.
We started talking about CrossFit, and he's like gone.
Joe, can you see me?
I can see both of you. This is amazing. I'm in charge.
You are.
I can take you off the screen. No, but Jamie won my first.
Can you hear him at all, Becky?
No.
Becky can't hear me at all?
No.
That is really weird. I have no idea how to fix that.
Drop and go back on, Scott. See if
let me take.
If you drop, does it? I think it's just me and you now. Good, he's gone.
All right.
No, one of the questions.
No worries.
You're back on the other side.
Hey, I'm back.
Scott.
Becky, can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Don't think you're going to get out of this whole CrossFit discussion. Let's bring it back.
Okay. What I was saying is Jamie Carney actually. I started riding when I was 10, and Jamie Carney won my first ever bike race. first ever USCF race,
Not
and
surprised.
his dad got mad at Jonas for not winning,
Yeah.
which is a complicated equation because they're brothers. So one of the things I still love is just going for long rides, and it may not be the ideal for any other form of training. It's absolutely not the best training to go race well at the track, but I like going on 3-hour rides, so that's not going to go away. As a aging dude, it just turned 50. I do need to do some other stuff to try and maintain and not get shorter faster or something. So I have thought about it, and that is why I agreed to this insane challenge because I don't feel like every CrossFit box in the country will offer you a free workout, but I don't think going to one is going to let me experience what it is. Where if and I don't want Joe to be the coach. I was hoping to get his brother OBB, other brother Bragg, to be the guy that guides me through it. So by doing it for a week, we'll come out on the other side, and I'll either be highly addicted or like, why did I ever sign up for this? But it will be obvious to me, and I kind of, to be perfectly honest, fear what it's going to do to me, and that's one of the reasons I'm putting it off. But that's okay.
Well, I will say, I think a lot of people do trade one addiction for the other, and so
yeah, absolutely.
I think CrossFit can become that, and that is honestly part of the reason why we started FaithRxd.
Now
It
Becky's
can be a
breaking
culture. Sorry, guys, can you hear me now?
Yep.
So that is one of the reasons why we started FaithRxd, because I know that CrossFit can become a culture of idolatry, and my heart was that people would worship the God that should be worshiped and not the God that will always fail them. And so, yeah, just,
that's
proceed with caution and keep your priorities. All I have to say, it's easy to get sucked into it.
Yeah, it's one thing actually that if you've ever read, I mean, I'm sure you have, Rich, his book First, that I think he read after the second or third time he won the games. But he mentioned that, I think in it, and yeah, he mentioned there that had he not lost, Scott, to give you kind of a little bit of background, he took second the first time he went and competed at the CrossFit Games.
What a loser.
He couldn't climb a rope properly. He didn't know how to climb a rope, and that cost him the overall win. And it helped him identify, though, what that he was probably not really what kind of Christian he was. And he wasn't giving glory to God the way he was supposed to be doing. He was the type of Christian that goes to church on Sundays and prays for whatever he wants instead of praying for what Christ actually wants or what God wants for us. And it taught him a lot. And it's a book I definitely recommend it. It helped me in a lot of ways. And Scott, this. I read that book came out about the time that my friend Scott Serene passed away.
Gotcha.
And it helped me. That book actually literally is what helped me talk to him about God. Just because it helped me realize, what I'm not doing. I'm still putting myself first a lot of times, and I'm worried about. Scott was a good friend of mine that we CrossFit together, and we, like Becky said, we that was our thing together, and that's not really what it should be, especially if somebody's facing death. So it gave me the opportunity to talk to him. Now that the talk didn't go as well as I expected or had hoped, but I went about as well as I expected, not as well as I had hoped. But I don't know if it got to him, the way it needed to. I know he actually talked to some other people afterwards. But to me, that meant a lot to me and helped identify for me on what I need to be as a Christian. So every now and then I go back and reread that because it's easy to get sucked back into that CrossFit world of drinking the Kool-Aid. And for us at CrossFit Boiler Room, hey, baby. At CrossFit Boiler Room, one thing we do, we have a weekly Bible study. I think, Becky, I don't know if it was you or your husband talked to my older brother, Chad, last year at the Atlantic region. And I think I met you for a moment at the Central region.
Yep.
And when in talking with you guys, I think we couldn't go through at the time. We couldn't go through all the training and everything to do a FaithRx chapter. But Chad at that point was like, look, while it takes a little bit of time to get all that in order, let's go ahead and get a weekly Bible study started so that we're at least keeping our keeping our eyes where they need to be. So, and that's also helped me as well, because it really is easy to get sucked into every bit of that life. And, Scott is somebody that deals with addiction. It's easy to get sucked into something like that where you do lose your focus.
Not like I rode 1,000 miles in a month without focus.
Right.
Yeah, it's very easy to make exercise of any form, cycling, anything that you can easily make that an idol in your life, and I found that before. So,
and that's something we're really looking forward to with, and I'll definitely say we talked earlier about Josh Beavers and Warrior Pride. I'll reach out to him as well, because even now I talked to the Bragg brothers and mentioned how I was going to have you on, and hey, they were like, how did you pull that off? And it was one of those, hey, it's 6 degrees of weird. Scott knows
Scotty boy.
Yeah.
Cycling world runs deep. Speaking of which, on a side note, Scott, I saw Andy Taus, the amazing official, right?
Yes.
He
Andy
is watching, riding his trainer. Impressed, Andy. Way to go, buddy. Get those workouts in. How do I reply to our friends, or do you have full control of those?
If you actually, it's tricky. You need to log into Facebook in order to have it show up there. But when I saw your other comment, I said I put on the screen. I'll put it right there so Andy can see it as well.
Cool.
Becky says, "Hi." No, he's watching on his trainers, but now it's in writing. There you go. So.
It's official now.
I could even put it like Easter Bunny ears around here. There you go. We got the Easter Bunny since it's Easter week, but I don't know how to take that off. There we go.
So that's something I would say. Something we're still looking into is doing hopefully becoming a FaithRxd chapter. But like you said, it takes some time and getting things organized as far as that goes. And right now,
I know somebody that could probably help.
As somebody say, as a smaller gym, we're pretty small as far as a gym goes, but we've always been a Christian. I'd say Christian-based gym. That sounds weird as that sounds, but we've never shied away from our fitness. For our faith. We've never shied away from our fitness either, but our faith.
We shy away from our fitness all the time.
Yeah.
What's the name of your gym again?
CrossFit Boiler Room.
Boiler Room. Okay, got it.
In Villa Rica. That is definitely West Georgia. That's not north, northwest. That's west. But we've never shied away from that, and we always try to be, and as far as inclusive as everybody goes, as well. But it's kind of that to me. Like you said, when we started this, it was all about fitness. We definitely didn't shy away from our faith, but it was in the past couple of years that. Chad, the older Bragg brother, who's not a trainer, mentioned, he was like, you talking to me and Steven and Jasmine, who are the head trainers at the gym, that you guys are really good at training fitness. It's what you love doing, and you're really good at that. Well, Chad went to seminary. He's actually he wants to be in missions, and but he was like, I see a platform, like you said, when you woke up, New Year's Day. I see a platform here that could go further. So he reached out, I didn't reach out and find you guys. He found you guys looking for something to be able to start something like that on his own. And it's just kind of the idea's grown. And now we have what we call Life Beyond the Whiteboard is what we call our
awesome
Wednesday nights. So, and even then it's small. We usually have about 8 or 10 people work out at 6:30 and then stay for 7:30 for the Life Beyond the Whiteboard. It's just, it really does mean a lot, and it kind of reminds you what you're doing this for. And the importance, oddly enough, of your health and fitness in your Christianity as well. So it's kind of a cool, everything gets tied all back together. And I'm always the guy in the Bible study going, well, this is how this relates to this week's workout. This is, kind of felt like crap. And I needed a reminder for this, or I wasn't doing this right, and I needed to listen to my coach. Well, the Bible's your coach. And for me as a trainer, something that I think a lot of times trainers get away from, and one thing we really we work out with our members all the time, just because it's nice to see your trainers working out side by side with somebody that's coming in, 300 plus pounds and is giving their all as well.
Yep.
And we work out side by side, and they see us all doing this together, and we're all, just you're all in this together. Whether it is your fitness or your faith, everybody's doing this together. So it just kind of, to me, always, I can always tie everything back to CrossFit, because that's how CrossFit works. But that's how people that drink the Kool-Aid work.
That's right.
Like, this is exactly like a CrossFit workout. This is exactly like when Dave Castro programmed something evil. But I'm that guy. But it's nice to have a huge mixture, and it is nice to know that there's people like Rich and Spieler and these guys like that are huge, like you said, icons of the sport. Aren't shy about their faith as well. So
definitely. Guido Trinidad, and I don't know if you know Spencer Arnold. He's in that Atlanta area, and he's with Power and Grace Performance.
I don't know Spencer.
They're both
I'd say
very involved.
I don't know Spencer. I met Guido last year. I didn't do Wadapalooza this year, but I judged what Wadapalooza last year. So I talked to Guido for just a few minutes. Mine is I'm not quite the elite level athlete as you guys are. I do love judging, so I judge at regionals and Wadapalooza, and to me that's the most fun anyway. So I don't have the stress.
That's why you and Scott get along.
Yes.
Right? You both like to judge and officiate, and
Yep.
There you go.
So I will be. I know, Scott, you were about to say. I think you were about to come up on it, but I will be. I don't know if you guys are going to be at Central or in Atlantic this year as well. I will be at both of those. So if you definitely are there, I'll stop by.
Okay. I'm actually really sad. We chose not to do regionals this year. We were at 4 last year, and it's just getting more and more expensive. We don't sell a ton of retail. We end up losing a lot of money. And, we were able to have 500 people come to our morning word of the day. So Scott, one of our things is like, hey, if we're at a competition, you see a FaithRxd tent, Sunday morning, there's going to be a chapel service that we call word of the day. And between the regionals and the CrossFit Games, over 500 people came to that, which is incredible. But unfortunately, it requires resources. And, we just didn't have an extra $20,000 that we could spend this year, Lord willing, in the future, perhaps, because being at major competitions is a desire of ours and part of our plan. So we hope to support the community in other ways. We'll be putting out a lot of online stuff that will hopefully be able to connect with the community that way.
Well, one of the things we'll do is this podcast will be available on here I go, Joe. Let's see if I get them all. It'll be audio version will be available on Podbean, iTunes, as well as Google Play. This Facebook Live video is available live right now, and we do put this up on the YouTube as well. We'll blast it out on our social media, which is the Twitter, and Joe and I will share it. And apparently one of the cool things about this podcast has been, like, if you had told me to guess who's going to be the person we both know that's going to join today, Andy Taus would never have been on my list of people to be watching my podcast right now.
Where's Super J and Fred Patton? We need them on too.
but my illegitimate Uncle Fred. But any of this could not, the paths that we've crossed in the mutual friends, and it's kind of weird when my world. I don't know where you guys are on the screen, on your screen, but I do actually. But here's Becky in the middle of Joe and I, who I would never have never have thought that was going to happen either. So it's been a wild journey, and we're only in I think this is episode 6, or Joe, we're
6
new,
or
but
7.
We'll spread it out
guys.
there, and we'll see where we go. We were just 2 guys that wanted to start talking, and we decided to refine our craft. And we stole Matt Reichert's credit card, took care of that, didn't I, Joe?
That was close. Close.
It's an inside joke. You don't need to know about that one,
we
I think
literally
we all do actually, but okay, we'll let it pass.
We literally started this. Scott and I have worked together for almost 6 years now. I ended up best man at his wedding a couple years ago, and we sit literally probably 20 feet from each other, 15 or 20 feet from each other. And I don't know what, Barnum and Bevo, who gave Scott the idea. He was like, I'm going to start it. I like the way they're doing their podcast. I need a partner to podcast with. By the way, I did not volunteer. Somebody was like, hey, that weird guy that you did a video with randomly like 2 years ago, he seemed pretty good. And my wife was like, you should totally do that with Scott. So I didn't volunteer. And Scott was like, I think we should do it. That's about how the podcast started. And then we meet in the break room every 2 or 3 days and hey, what should we talk about this week? So it's honestly perfectly described the way Scott and I work together because we have ADD and we bounce all over the place. So our itineraries usually have about 4 things listed, and it easily goes a full hour.
Well, we got everything I wanted to talk about, which was Becky's conversion from elite cyclist to
elite CrossFit,
elite CrossFitter, and what exactly FaithRxd and how it became and what it is, and we've covered all that, and that's what I really wanted to know more about. So, and I'm guessing she'll want an update after I do my marathon journey through a week of CrossFit.
Yeah, so No, we will be on this. I was going to say not this Sunday, but no, 2 Sundays from now, we're actually not going to. We do this on Sunday, Sunday night, and 2 Sundays from now, we're not going to be on because he will have just done his 200-plus mile Tour de Pink, and I will have just run the 15 miles, and we're going to do a recovery night.
Well, actually, the time we normally broadcast, I'll be somewhere around the Florida-Georgia state line, I think. So.
I'd love to have you guys at one of our camps. Our next camp is going to be in Denver, Colorado. It's in October 12th through the 14th. So it's a ways off, plenty of time to plan for it, but they're amazing
that's
weekends.
Just what I need to do is go back to a mile above sea level and do anaerobic efforts. Yeah, that just sounds wonderful. Pass the trash.
Hey, there's a whole faith component too, Scott. Okay, so faith and fitness, uniting faith and fitness.
I don't pray well. I don't pray well when I have exercise and do vomiting.
Hey, the good thing is though, and I keep telling Scott this is with everything's scalable. So you can do it, Scott. Scott's all worried he's not gonna be able to do squats properly, and I'm like, we've had members come in our gym that can't squat. It's okay.
Well, he's pretty tall. I mean, he's got some traveling distance from.
That's right.
But wall balls will be your jam.
Yeah, you do.
And snatching.
With those big legs like that, you'll be fine.
Yep. Your long arm levers, you're going to be amazing at snatching. So check it out.
It's so funny you mentioned that because that's where anybody that CrossFits. Becky, I don't know how tall you are.
I'm like shrinking every year. I'm now maybe 5'2".
She's the pocket rocket, Joe. The pocket rocket.
Oh, the Bob Schuler coined that term. I'm like 5'2" and 3/4.
Anyone under 5'9" does not like wall balls. Yeah. Full squat, throw a ball 20 or 10 or 9 or 10 feet up in the air. Nobody likes wall balls. Nobody likes rowing. You would be great on both of those machines.
Yeah, you'd crush it. So there's hope for you, brother. Excited for
you. Well, like I said, we're gonna have OBB. Wait. See, I work with Joe and Chad, and they have another brother in the middle, so we just call him OBB, Other Brother Bragg. So we're gonna have him come on and describe what the hell he's gonna put me through, and then I'm gonna make the journey to West Georgia for a week, and then we'll report back.
Yeah, take a little maybe a power verse, Bible verse, perhaps in your brain to get you through the sticking points.
There you go.
I can do all things through Christ.
You look up on the wall. On the wall at the gym, we have as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. So
there you go, bro.
Big printed up on the wall, so you can turn around when you're dying in the middle of a workout. Turn around and look at it, and be like, "All right, OBB's sharpening me right now."
What I'm worshiping the trash can. Turn me around, Joe.
Hey, it happens. I'll just be, hey, you look up there. Don't you worry about that.
As long as I follow our approved barfing procedure, that we in our office, we actually got an email that it told us we're no longer allowed to barf in trash cans, and if we do, we have an official barfing procedure.
And what is that?
You have to either take the barf out yourself or call facilities so somebody can handle the barf in an appropriate manner.
Yeah. Why do
you,
I feel like Jamie Carney wrote this? I mean, this says Jamie Carney written all
when I
over
read it, I think I might have even, I don't remember if it was Joe or my friend Robin. I texted, did we really just get an email telling us how to barf? Strange things in corporate America.
I was saying, and I was saying, we're IT professionals. We sit at desks all day. It's not like that's a huge thing we deal with.
Yeah.
You know, well, there's some things that make me sick, but it's not that way.
Anyway, one of the key things we try to do is wrap this up in an hour. So I would like to personally thank you. This has been so much fun. Hey, Meatball Friedman just showed up.
Mikey. Nice.
Mike has actually been Joe. Mike doesn't know this yet, but I have pinged him. Mike is one of the best cyclists America's ever produced, in my opinion. He has also struggled with weight along the way. He is the only person I personally know who has finished Paris-Roubaix. And while he was racing, he struggled with weight. He recently sent me a picture saying that he was on a weight loss journey as well. So we're gonna sign Meatball up to come on here. He also does very strange things with his chest hair. We'll cover that more later. But Becky, no, seriously, it's great to get caught up with an old friend, especially when it's doing so much positive. And I'm sure this isn't the last. It won't be another 10 years before we talk again.
All right, let's make sure it's not.
Absolutely. Joe, you got anything else?
Nope, I really appreciate it, and we look forward to hopefully talking to you guys soon and maybe becoming another chapter of FaithRxd.
All right, awesome.
Hold on. According to Meatball, we need to say this. Hey. I have the highest bone density ever recorded at CU. It's bone density. He's big boned.
He does have in his head. He is the biggest head ever. I spent 2 winters.
Did my video just went off? Do you guys still see me?
I can see you.
Okay, well that's weird. I have a black screen. Anyway, Becky, we're gonna sign off and then we'll say goodbye. Don't hang up yet. But everybody else, thanks, and we should be back on Sunday night.